Daring Do Doesn't Need a Special Somepony, Part 2.
So, if we're gonna get to Canterlot on time, we need to get into the Wonderbolt's headquarters.
Tracksuit Mare mutters to me as we trot back through the streets of Cloudsdale.
Are we stealing some superpowered military transport? The conspiracy theorists were right.
I think for a moment before she shakes her head.
We need to get inside the inner research facility. I was once in there to test these new fire-trailing horseshoes, and they've got all sorts of stuff hidden away. We're going after the secret passage.
Okay, hold on a minute. Secret passageways and tunnels are my area of expertise. It's my job to know about them, find them, and drastically run them down with a suitably grim expression. I know, thanks to my years of field experience, that you can't hide a passage to Canterlot in a floating city. Unless it goes through the Rainbow Waterfalls, but those are just at the borders of the metropolis and we're approaching the very center. Apparently the headquarters we're breaking into is in...
There.
She points at a massive pyramidal structure suspended in the middle of the business district.
The Tetrahedron.
Cloudsdale's royal outpost revolves slowly before us, polished cloud walls gently tapering down to point menacingly at the ground. A well-lit ramp winds around the outside, linking each of the 7 levels in a looping, glittering spiral. At the top of the structure, above us, the tetrahedron's angles are clearly defined. The 3 walls butting right up against each other, but the corners gradually smooth into a rounded prism the farther I look down. Romanesque pillars mark every entrance. I notice a few guards patrolling near the middle floors garbed in Wonderbolt blue. So that must be where the headquarters is.
The roof of the building is a landing strip. The top floor has the embassy, so it's locked up tight. But...
Stuntflyer reaches into her saddlebags and pulls out the softly glowing keycard, and she waves it in my face.
We have alpha level access.
The card gets zippered into a silky blue pocket, and she looks over at me, a single eyebrow raised above her purple shades.
Those have gotta be superglued to her face. So, you ready? Damn straight.
I smirk, and then we're both twisting through the air, piercing through the shadows in a race to get to the roof. Flap, stretch hooves forward, flare an ankle, skim over surface of wall, brush feathers, so soft, against opponent's wingtips, twist and flap, final stretch, earn it. It's a tie. The borrowed key card turns into the Stormcloud door into mist with a soft shushing noise, granting us entrance to the heavy quiet of the hallways. We find a staircase with relative ease, and for a time the world is nothing but a steady beat of feathers as we circle down the stairwell. A beigey blur of faintly lit cloud stuff flashes with blue, green, and white. The smell of vanilla lingering in the air, with hints of lavender and bergamot just barely reaching my nose. But then, we open the door labeled REA and R&D, and come face to face with a stern, peachy-colored guardsmare seated behind a desk. Buck.
Do y'all have a pass?
She slurs, eyes slightly unfocused. I catch a whiff of fire cider on her breath, an excellent, if potent, brew. My companion says. What a brilliant individual. I slap on a winning smile and step forward, resting a hoof on the desk.
Of course we do.
Scan for name badge. Militaries always have one.
Apricot Haze.
I jerk my head at Tracksuit Mare, who immediately pulls out the keycard and hands it to the tipsy guard. Apricot Haze squints at the card, then looks back up at us, frowning. She points at the tiny picture of the fiery Wonderbolt captain.
Which one of you is her? Buck, think. I am. This is my assistant, Soren.
I finish smugly, right as Soren says.
Me, I'm, taking a Berry Trotter here down to R&D. Berry Trotter?
I glare at Stuntflyer, who indignantly mouths,
Soren?
back at me. Hey, look, not everyone spends their fillyhood drooling over glorified celebrity dance teams. I'm proud to even know the name. There aren't exactly an abundance of show posters in the Tenocleton Basin, but mistaking me for an imaginary adolescent student at Star Swirl's Academy of Magic? Does she live under a rock? The guardsmare is frowning now, reaching for her walkie-talkie because 3-year-old fillies know who Berry Trotter is, and he looks nothing like Daring Do.
Sorry about this.
I say, and then I somersault onto the desk, stomp the walkie-talkie into smithereens, and toss the half-empty bottle of fire cider out the window. Apricot dives after it with a wail, and I have to bite Stuntflyer's tail because she nearly leaps after it too.
That stupid mare still has the keycard. I'm so fired.
She shrieks.
Or should I say, threaks. Still scrambling for the window. Spitfire is gonna kill me.
I try to say words as I grunt through a mouthful of hair. I drag her into the next room, where she calms down enough to realize that we're not exactly in a position to mouth her career and well-being. I spit out her tail and then we're running, weaving through shadowed offices and dim hallways. She takes point, and I have no idea where we're going, only that I can hear shouting in the distance. This is obviously a great opportunity for conversation.
Berry Trotter, really?
I yell.
Kiss my flank. You called me a flying cupcake.
She shouts back, turning a corner and flying down another stairwell.
At least Soren is real.
We burst into an empty laboratory.
He totally dyes his mane, and come on.
She yells, glaring back at me.
You look like you got out of a costume party. Because I'm daring too. This is how I always dress.
She doesn't even bat an eye. Or maybe she does. She still hasn't taken her shades off, and I'm following the back of her head.
Delighted to meet you.
She drawls in a raspy voice, pausing to kick a set of double doors open before taking off again.
Sergeant Fleetfoot, at your service. Reigning champion of the Derby, fastest bolt onto the performance squadron, blah blah blah, probably gonna be demoted if we don't get those truffles.
She groans and lands trotting off her momentum.
Here we go.
We're in a small chamber with extremely dense walls. Turquoise and magenta light dances across the surface, flowing from a large flat crystal embedded into the center of the floor. I could practically see the magic radiating from it.
So, that's the secret passageway?
Fleetfoot. It's so weird that she has that name. Anyway, she struts over to the crystalline gem and wraps it with a hoof. Her horseshoe clinks softly against the surface, oddly muffled.
Yeah, I mean, it's more like a stored teleportation spell, but it deposits you wherever the other crystal is, so it's a fixed path. What's important is that it'll take us to Canterlot Castle.
I shrug nonchalantly, meandering over to stand beside her. The gemstone is really not that different from one I stumbled across while searching for the sapphire stone, and the fact is that it's inside a closet, in the middle of Cloudsdale, speaking volumes about its safety rating.
That's really all that matters. Racia!
I pounce on the crystal and her sputtering face disappears into dozens and dozens of stars. Everything tingles, and then I'm rolling to my hooves in a vaguely scholastic-looking tower room. Bookshelves line the round walls, and a quick scan reveals a noticeable lack of an attractive tan and grayscale mare's adventures. Stuck-up scholars. With a magical hum, Fleetfoot flashes into existence and promptly acquaints her face with the carpeted floor. I snigger.
9.3 out of 10.
I call.
That little whimper at the end really sold me.
She makes a rude gesture with her hoof, which I graciously ignore.
So, it looks like we're in the school for gifted unicorns.
I observe, moving to the window. Fleetfoot's head snaps up and she points an accusing hoof at me.
See, I knew you were Berry Trotter. How else would you know what the school looks like?
I flare my wings to either side and give them a shake.
Do I look like a unicorn to you? Have you even read those books? No.
She murmurs, eyes fixed on, well, something behind me? I turn around, but there's nothing there but a few encyclopedias. She's getting to her feet when I turn back around, the faintest hint of a blush on her cheeks.
Could she have been looking at my... No, definitely not.
All the same, my wings burn faintly from the imagined gaze.
How about no?
I'm not interested in a special Somepony, especially not one as petulant and illiterate and attractive as Fleetfoot.
Wait a minute.
She coughs, gesturing at the single arched window.
Shall we? Yes.
I leaped at the chance to disperse the awkwardness. Straight out the window. In hindsight, taking the stairs would probably have worked just as well. Plus 10 awesome points to me. We slide down the domed roof of the school, narrowly avoiding a 1,000-foot drop, and touch down on the outer battlements. Then it's just a matter of creeping past the occasional guard, zigzagging across the perimeter until we're over the front gate. Canterlot's normally a restricted airspace. If you so much as flap your wings above the rooftops without an identification gem, you have 30 guard stallions on you in an instant. Or so the fanfillies have tried to convince me, while not so subtly hinting at writing their characters into my next book.
Huh.
Fleetfoot smacks me with her nicely preened wing. Holding up Stalwart's steadfast identification card, she taps the picture and then points to the mostly empty street below, where a blue-maned stallion disappears around the corner. A rainbow shimmer flashes in the moonlight, and I turn to Fleet, but she's already moving. She wraps her forelegs around me and dives off the wall, doing some fancy stunt flyer thing, where she rockets towards the ground and then pulls a barrel roll right before letting go. I'm sent flying sideways down the street, sailing after Stalwart like a bowling ball. Unfortunately, I still have inertia carrying me forward, and she winds up having to peel me off the front of Pony Joe's Donuts a few moments later.
Thanks,
I grunt, and she grimaces, turning her head to look back at her wing. It's crooked. I could probably coerce it back into place, but that would take time, and Fleetfoot's biting her bottom lip. We need to go. I've suffered worse, but she's a born flyer. She needs her wings to live just as much as I do.
The Wonderbolts probably have doctors for this type of stuff. Just go.
I look around, then grab a nearby wagon and flip it, spilling flowers and shrubbery all over the street. I toss Fleetfoot into the bed.
Thank you, Canterlot Decorating Committee.
And stuff a few decently sized hydrangeas in around her.
Hand me those seats,
she barks, pointing at the outdoor dining area. I oblige and throw a small cafe table in for good measure. 30 seconds later, we're barreling down Azalea Street, Fleetfoot chucking velvet cushions at any guards unlucky enough to encounter us. The wooden wagon is proving to be deadly effective, with myself as the motor and Fleetfoot managing navigation.
Turn right now!
We've managed to plow through the better half of the city. I'm still not so sure how she sees through sunglasses, but frankly, I don't care anymore. It's upped our badass factor by at least 7. We crash around a corner, nearly taking out a lamppost, and we're getting closer now. My wings flap eagerly, but it's my legs that benefit most of the surge of adrenaline. We've got to be almost upon him.
There he is!
Fleetfoot screams.
Charge!
Now, I'm not sure if it's the fact that we've been after this guy for nearly 3 hours, or that it's well past midnight and I'm drunk with exhaustion, or maybe just that I would like a damn truffle, please. But when Fleetfoot gives the order to charge, I obey just like it's my Celestia-ordained duty. A battle cry rips itself from my lungs, thundering through the air like a glory-seeking hurricane, mighty in its terrifying power. Time slows down until I could fit an eternity in the spaces between each heartbeat.
Teamwork.
I got a taste of it with that Rainbow Dash filly. 2 ponies working at the same time to complete the same task, the most basic definition of the word. I even threw the concept into Ring of Destiny. It was so neat. But that was just brushing the surface of the word's meaning. Now, propelling a rickety flower wagon through the probably no longer sleeping town, I understand what teamwork is. Why every pony makes such a big deal out of that friendship thing. Teamwork wasn't between us when we were racing through Cloudsdale, half wondering if the other would grab the box and scram before we could protest. It wasn't there in the Captain Pony's office, where we were too focused on the task at Hoof to properly meld our tactics together. It was only with the impending approach of certain court-martialing that a faint glimmer of teamwork appeared. That moment when I acted for us, and she trusted my decision. Teamwork was there when the roles were reversed. She decided that I needed to be thrown, and I went along without a second thought because I knew she held fulfilling our goal at the highest priority. Teamwork is absolutely here as our wagon crests a small hill and begins to pick up speed. I'm flying now, about to jump into the wagon, and then Fleetfoot's tail is in my face.
Teamwork.
I bite her tail, and she pulls me forward. I tumble into the wagon and sit up, analyzing the path before us. Analysis.
Can't see worth a buck.
Then the hydrangea is pulled off my head and tossed into the air. I pivot and buck. Critical hits, guard down. We pass a bistro, and Fleetfoot surges out of the wagon. I finish sending a cushion flying at the next guard, re-evaluation, 7 guards remaining, and then snag her hoof and pull her back. She offers me the sunbrella clamped in her jaw, I take it, and we push it open and wedge it over the front of the wagon, plow through 4 more guards, and the remaining 3 are running now, calling for reinforcements, and their mothers. They only receive hydrangeas. Fleetfoot turns to the side and tenses her good wing, allowing me to pull it back and launch houseplants of death from it like a slingshot. The guards fall, leaving a clear path for the elusive stalwart Steadfast. It's good timing too. We've officially run out of the street. Stalwart looks up at us as we approach, eyes widening in horror at the coming of his own personal apocalypse. The collision plasters him to the front of our sunbrella plow, and Fleetfoot reaches out to help me lug his unresisting form into the wagon as we crash through the northern gate, hurtling towards the edge of the world. I'm prepared to grab my truffles and tracksuit invalid and bail when I realize that the stallion doesn't have the bag. I groan loudly in anger. I wrench the sunbrella pole with the strength of 1,000 suns or some crap.
Just who cares?
And the pointy fleur-de-lis finial digs into the ground, stopping the wagon with a concussive jerk. I turn around with an angry snort, and Fleetfoot has the stallion on his stomach, pinned, her hooves digging into the pressure points beneath his wings, and he whimpers.
Stalwart Steadfast,
I growl, kicking a loose shrub to the side.
If you tell me that those rainbow truffles are lying back there, ground into the mud...
I lean down to his eye level and hiss.
I will personally grind your face into the dirt at the bottom of this cliff.
He laughs nervously.
Oh, is that all? The truffles? Of course. They're not.
Fleetfoot lets up on the pressure, and I can see him wince. Encouraged, he continues eagerly.
I took those up to the palace. You know where I work? It's a special job. Only the best guards get, picked for the truffle duty, but So you don't have the candy?
Fleetfoot interrupts.
No!
Steadfast squeaks. Fleetfoot helps me drop our remaining small cafe table on him.
Teamwork. So, nice job back there.
Fleetfoot comments as we trot through the castle hallways. The guards are noticeably absent from their posts, likely attending to their injured comrades in the street. They fell in honorable combat.
Well, you were pretty sweet yourself,
I reply, glancing over at her. Her sunglasses, still pristine as ever, hide her eyes.
That bit where you threatened him would have made Spitfire cry with joy. She probably would have promoted you on the spot.
She pokes her head into a room, scans it, and then pops back out.
Is that what you want the truffles for?
Holy buck. I have no idea if this is some elaborate bribery attempt, or if Fleetfoot and I just share an intense love of spiced, fluffy, heavenly, delicious...
Sorta. Kinda.
We reach the sweeping spiral staircase and begin the ascent. Fleetfoot sighs.
It's, well, kinda lame. I'm only a senior airmare, okay? I'm a Wonderbolt, flying in the most famous squadron of the entire EUP, and I'm not even a sergeant.
We pass by a window. It's still dark.
I mean, I don't mind being the lowest rank on the team. The press really only cares about the captain and lieutenant. I've always been more focused on flying anyway. I train hard, fly fast, all that stuff. But Misty Fly was teasing me about it the other day, which wasn't really a big deal. I just called her a flying gumdrop, and the argument went from there like it usually does. But like, it really got to me, right? And I knew we had our annual evaluations coming up, and there's a new squadron of reserves that need an overseeing officer. That's a job that a full-time Wonderbolt usually fills.
Fleetfoot hangs her head.
So, when I went to ask Spitfire about it yesterday, she was in a bad mood because bureaucracy or something, so she just flat out told me I'm a crappy team player and more self-centered than a new recruit.
I hazard a guess.
So, you're gonna get the truffles for your captain and poison them? That's the worst part!
Fleetfoot wails, lisp returning with a vengeance.
Spitfire to the right!
I just can't resist.
Oh, she ith? Yeth!
She bawls, collapsing onto the stairs.
Fuck.
My inner badass is waving red flags with the word pansy alert on them, but the outer part of me absently notices the graceful lines of her body, racked with sobs, but still strong. still athletic. It draws my attention to the scrunched-up wing quivering against her side. I spot the telltale mottling of bruises underneath her feathers, but she hadn't complained. Not even once. Well, I amend, recounting the never-ending stream of griping about my lack of floorboard awareness.
She hasn't really moaned about the pain.
Even now, she's crying over her lack of team spirit, completely ignoring her damaged appendage. She's still tough, she just has to, siphon off the excess emotion? Yeah. In that case, screw the stairs. I have just as much to cry about as she does. I sit down with a thump. Fleetfoot sniffs, looking up at me blearily.
You know what I mean?
The floodgates open.